At this point, it's clear that every effort is being made from family and law enforcement to get Nancy home. But there were 4 things that stuck out to the former agent who spoke to me after he watched Savannah's message.
I can break a little news on your program here that I spoke with a detective earlier today, and effective Monday, this investigation will essentially be moved to the task force entirely. We will be sending, I believe, 4 detectives and a sergeant to the task force, the FBI, here in Tucson. And then the rest of the detectives have been ordered to essentially...
We've all acknowledged there's a ransom note. It appears to me that the investigators aren't 100% convinced it's legitimate.
Nobody expected this. Just when people thought the investigation had stalled out into endless rumors, online theories, and public frustration, the FBI reportedly made a major move behind the scenes. Arrest warrants connected to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. After weeks of confusion, silence, and speculation dominating national headlines, the case suddenly took a turn that few saw coming. But according to people close to the investigation, the real shock may not be who investigators are looking at. It may be the possibility that the entire story was never what the public believed in the first place. Some insiders are now quietly raising a disturbing question. What if Nancy Guthrie's disappearance was not simply a kidnapping for money? What if parts of the narrative were carefully manipulated from the beginning? Investigators are reportedly examining claims involving hidden surveillance, deleted communications, and evidence that may have been intentionally staged to push public attention in the wrong direction. And according to some sources, people close to Nancy may have known more than they ever admitted publicly. Then there is the issue of the cryptocurrency ransom demands. The wallets tied to the alleged kidnappers reportedly went silent. Deadlines passed. No meaningful movement of funds appeared. Communication stopped almost completely. If this operation was truly about money, investigators are now asking why the financial side of the scheme collapsed so strangely and so quickly. That has fueled growing speculation that the ransom itself may have served another purpose entirely. Behind the scenes, one question keeps resurfacing among investigators and online observers alike. Who benefited from directing attention away from the real story? And if someone was manipulating the narrative from the shadows, what happens when the full truth finally becomes public? This case no longer feels like ordinary celebrity scandal. It feels like a collision between wealth, influence, family pressure, and something far darker unfolding underneath it all. Nancy Guthrie was 84 years old, wealthy, connected, widely respected, and deeply involved in philanthropy. To the public, she appeared untouchable, the kind of person surrounded by security, stability, and protection. Yet somehow she vanished without explanation, turning the peaceful Catalina foothills estate into the center of one of the country's most disturbing mysteries. According to people familiar with the family, tensions inside the Guthrie household had reportedly been building for weeks before Nancy disappeared. Some insiders described the atmosphere as strained and emotionally charged. One source claimed Savannah Guthrie was not simply worried about her mother, but deeply unsettled by events unfolding behind closed doors. According to that source, there was a growing sense that something serious was developing inside the family long before February 1st arrived. On the evening of January 31st, everything initially appeared normal. Nancy followed her usual nightly routine. The garage door reportedly closed just before 10 p.m. Her medical monitoring systems remained active, lights inside the home were set as usual, and familiar nighttime habits appeared unchanged. Then, suddenly, the silence began. At some point during the night, the monitoring systems disconnected. Calls reportedly went unanswered. Communication stopped without warning. And from that moment forward, investigators believe nothing about the night unfolded normally again. What makes the situation even stranger are the reports emerging about the weeks leading up to the disappearance. According to individuals close to the family, mysterious phone calls from unknown numbers had reportedly become more frequent. Some messages on Nancy's devices were allegedly deleted under unclear circumstances. Neighbors also claimed to have seen an unfamiliar man lingering near the property shortly before the abduction. But the deeper investigators looked, the more complicated the story appeared to become. Because this was not a family untouched by controversy. Rumors surrounding financial disputes, corporate disagreements, and private tensions had reportedly circulated around the Guthrie name for years. Some observers believe those conflicts may now be drawing renewed scrutiny as investigators examine possible motives extending far beyond a simple ransom demand. The public initially saw the case as a terrifying home invasion targeting a wealthy family. But behind the scenes, investigators now appear to be asking a much more uncomfortable question. Was the kidnapping itself only one piece of something much larger? The masked intruder footage quickly became the centerpiece of the investigation. Slow movements, gloves, controlled body language, every step measured and deliberate. To the public, it looked like the work of someone highly trained. But according to several investigators speaking privately, something about the footage felt wrong. One retired federal agent reportedly described it as too clean, almost as if the person on camera wanted to be seen. Calm, controlled, calculated, but at the same time strangely theatrical, like a performance designed to create a specific impression. The ransom demands only deepened that suspicion. Millions requested in cryptocurrency, digital wallets created for anonymous transfers, strict deadlines issued to the family, and yet no meaningful movement of money ever followed. The wallets reportedly remained untouched. Deadlines came and went without consequence. Communication faded into silence. For many investigators, that is where the case stopped looking like a straightforward kidnapping for profit. When the money never moves, the crime begins to feel less like extortion and more like messaging, a carefully staged display meant to push attention in a particular direction. As the story exploded nationally, fear spread far beyond Tucson. Candlelight vigils formed outside the Catalina foothills neighborhood. National news channels called the operation sophisticated and highly organized. Families across the country watched the coverage and imagined their own elderly parents living alone behind locked doors. But while the public focused on the masked figure and the ransom mystery, reports suggest tension inside the Guthrie household was escalating rapidly. Sources close to the family claimed arguments were breaking out behind closed doors. Staff members reportedly felt uncertain about who they could trust or what they should say to investigators. Some accounts suggest Savannah Guthrie became increasingly frustrated as confusion and fear spread through the home, especially as conflicting information continued surfacing from different people connected to the case. Then came another disturbing development. Investigators reportedly recovered 2 unidentified male DNA profiles from the scene. Neither profile matched Nancy Guthrie, and the 2 profiles did not match each other either. Forensic specialists described that as highly unusual. Instead of pointing clearly toward a single offender, the evidence suggested the possible involvement of multiple individuals, or at least multiple unexplained presences connected to the scene. That discovery intensified speculation about whether Nancy may have been endangered not by strangers alone, but potentially by people operating much closer to her personal world. As investigators expanded their focus into her broader network, charity foundations, financial relationships, real estate interests, and professional connections, a far more complicated picture reportedly began emerging. Behind the public image of wealth and philanthropy existed a network of influence, financial pressure, and private conflict that investigators could not ignore. Online reaction became explosive. Social media filled with theories, accusations, and anonymous claims from people alleging insider knowledge about disputes inside the family. Some questioned how such a wealthy and connected family could fail to protect its elderly matriarch. Others pointed to the untouched ransom demands as proof that the kidnapping narrative itself might be misleading. One viral post summarized the growing public skepticism in a single line: "If this was really about money, why is the money still sitting there untouched?" Perhaps the most chilling fact of all was that investigators reportedly still had no verified proof that Nancy Guthrie was alive. No confirmed sightings. No authenticated messages. No direct communication from whoever took her. Just the masked figure on surveillance footage, silent cryptocurrency wallets, and a growing number of unanswered questions surrounding the people closest to her. As investigators continued examining Nancy's background and the family's internal dynamics, a darker possibility began taking shape. Was this truly the work of a desperate outsider, or had the operation been orchestrated by someone with intimate knowledge of the household itself? And if so, who stood to benefit from her disappearance? By the time the investigation entered its second phase, the Guthrie home reportedly felt less like a residence and more like the center of a collapsing pressure cooker. According to insiders, chaos intensified after midnight on the night Nancy vanished. Savannah Guthrie was allegedly pacing through the living room with her phone in hand, repeatedly trying to contact her mother. At one point, a notification reportedly appeared on her screen only to disappear moments later before she could open it, adding even more confusion to an already terrifying situation. Meanwhile, investigators moved through the property searching for evidence while trying to reconstruct the movements of the masked intruder captured on surveillance footage. According to one source, the individual appeared to navigate the home with unusual familiarity, moving calmly through areas that would normally confuse an outsider. The person reportedly seemed to know the blind spots, entrances, and layout of the house in a way investigators found difficult to explain. Then came the leak that changed the tone of the investigation entirely. An alleged internal report from the Joint Task Force reportedly surfaced online containing a striking observation. The lack of communication after the abduction did not fit the behavioral pattern of a financially motivated offender. In other words, the silence itself appeared suspicious. If the primary goal had truly been ransom money, investigators expected continued pressure, repeated contact, or escalating threats. Instead, communication faded while public panic continued growing. One retired federal supervisor reportedly reacted to the leak with a troubling question: what if someone wanted the world to believe this was a classic kidnapping from the very beginning? Inside the home, emotions reportedly continued boiling over. According to accounts from people close to the investigation, Savannah confronted members of the household staff directly, demanding answers about where they had been that night and whether they knew more than they admitted publicly. Fear and distrust spread quickly as investigators pushed deeper into the timeline. Then another revelation surfaced. Sources claimed Nancy Guthrie's medical monitor recorded a heartbeat reading at approximately 2:15 a.m., well after investigators initially believed she had already disappeared from the home. At first, some investigators reportedly considered the reading a technical glitch. But as forensic specialists reviewed the data more closely, the possibility emerged that Nancy may still have been alive and moving long after the initial abduction window investigators first focused on. At first, investigators reportedly dismissed the strange heartbeat reading as a technical anomaly. But one forensic analyst later argued that the signal pattern did not look random at all. According to that source, someone may still have been inside Nancy Guthrie's room after the initial timeline investigators believed marked her disappearance. In other words, whoever entered the house may not have removed her immediately. Someone was there, moving carefully, controlling the scene before the actual extraction took place. Then the investigation took another dramatic turn. Anonymous social media accounts suddenly began posting screenshots allegedly taken from Nancy Guthrie's private emails. The messages appeared to reference financial inconsistencies connected to one of her charity projects. Almost instantly, speculation exploded online. One viral post asked the question everyone suddenly became obsessed with. Was this really about ransom money, or was someone trying to bury something far bigger? The situation intensified even further when a former board member tied to one of Nancy's foundations allegedly leaked a WhatsApp message online. The message claimed Nancy was too smart to disappear quietly and suggested that what the public was seeing had been carefully staged from the beginning. That single leak sent social media into chaos. Twitter threads multiplied by the hour. The hashtag #WhereIsNancy surged nationwide as people dissected every rumor, every frame of surveillance footage, and every unexplained detail surrounding the case. Some online observers became convinced the operation involved insiders. Others argued the Guthrie family itself might have been hiding critical information from the public. The untouched cryptocurrency wallets became central to nearly every theory. If the kidnappers truly wanted money, why had no funds moved? Why issue deadlines and then ignore them completely? To many watching the story unfold, it no longer resembled a traditional kidnapping. It looked orchestrated, almost theatrical. Behind the scenes, reports suggested tensions inside the investigative task force were escalating as well. Detectives reportedly argued over timelines, motives, and conflicting evidence. According to one insider, some investigators had begun privately questioning whether they had focused too heavily on the wrong narrative from the very beginning. The growing belief inside portions of the investigation was that this case felt personal, not random, and that someone close to Nancy Guthrie likely knew more than they were publicly admitting. Then came the leak that completely changed the atmosphere online. A second surveillance clip allegedly surfaced showing the masked figure returning to the property hours after Nancy's disappearance. This time, according to claims circulating online, another shadowy figure appeared briefly behind him. The image was blurry and impossible to confirm clearly, but the implication was explosive. Either multiple people had been directly involved, or someone intentionally wanted investigators and the public to believe that was the case. Savannah Guthrie's reaction reportedly became another viral moment. During an emotional Instagram live session, she allegedly accused someone close to the household of hiding the truth and demanded answers publicly before family attorneys intervened and shut the stream down. But by then, clips of the breakdown had already spread across every major social platform. Millions watched the footage repeatedly, analyzing every word, every expression, and every accusation. Shortly afterward, the FBI released another statement confirming the investigation remained active with hundreds of leads still under review. But one line immediately captured national attention. Investigators acknowledged they were examining not only the possibility of kidnapping, but also the possibility of staging and deliberate misdirection. That statement transformed the entire case overnight. For the first time, the public seriously considered the possibility that the kidnapping narrative itself may have been intentionally constructed to distract from something else entirely. Then another alleged leak surfaced online, this time involving a text exchange between Savannah and an unidentified number. The messages implied that investigators had become too focused on the masks, the ransom, and the public spectacle while missing what was supposedly happening underneath it all. Whether authentic or fabricated, the screenshot spread rapidly and pushed public paranoia to another level. Suddenly, the entire country seemed divided between two competing theories. One side believed Nancy Guthrie had been abducted in a highly organized criminal operation. The other believed the kidnapping story itself had become a carefully managed performance designed to conceal a much darker truth. And just as the confusion reached its peak, anonymous sources began hinting at something even more disturbing. According to one circulating claim, Nancy herself was not the real key to the mystery. The real secret, they suggested, involved information she allegedly possessed before she vanished. Information powerful enough that someone may have wanted the public focused anywhere else except on that. The next morning, social media exploded again. TikTok creators, Twitter investigators, and online commentators flooded platforms with breakdowns of surveillance footage, frame-by-frame analysis, and theories about the second shadow figure allegedly visible behind the masked intruder. Viral posts claimed someone was intentionally manipulating the public narrative in real time. Even celebrities and influencers joined the conversation, posting cryptic statements implying the real story was unfolding behind the scenes while the public remained distracted by the surface-level drama. Meanwhile, reports claimed Savannah Guthrie had become increasingly convinced that someone close to the family was involved. According to insiders, she privately confronted members of her inner circle demanding answers and insisting that someone inside the household knew more than they admitted publicly. Then came perhaps the most explosive development yet. An anonymous source allegedly sent TMZ a video appearing to show Nancy Guthrie alive inside an undisclosed location. In the clip, a woman believed to be Nancy appeared restrained and partially hidden from view, speaking softly toward the camera. Her face reportedly remained obscured, but viewers online immediately claimed the voice sounded unmistakably like hers. Within minutes, the video spread across the internet. News organizations interrupted programming. Analysts debated authenticity. Comment sections filled with fear, anger, and disbelief. For the first time since the disappearance, major outlets openly acknowledged the possibility that Nancy Guthrie might still be alive. But the twists did not stop there. Shortly afterward, another set of leaked emails allegedly connected to someone inside Nancy's circle suggested that the original ransom note itself may not have come from the kidnappers at all. According to those leaks, investigators were now considering the horrifying possibility that portions of the kidnapping narrative had been intentionally constructed from the beginning to manipulate public perception and conceal something far more dangerous happening beneath the surface. Social media exploded almost instantly. People argued non-stop across every platform, trying to figure out what was really happening behind the Nancy Guthrie case. Some believed the family itself was hiding something. Others thought an outsider was using Nancy's disappearance to distract investigators from a much larger crime. The uncertainty only fueled the chaos. Actress Lila Grant added to the frenzy with a viral post asking what Nancy might have known and who benefited from keeping the public focused in the wrong direction. That single question captured the mood spreading across the internet. At the same time, investigative journalists began piecing together the growing mountain of leaked screenshots, videos, emails, and anonymous claims. The more they compared the material, the stranger the pattern became. Certain information appeared online almost too perfectly timed. Statements from different sources contradicted each other. The cryptocurrency wallets connected to the ransom demands still showed no meaningful activity, while key pieces of surveillance footage were reportedly missing or incomplete. Every day, the public received another fragment of the story, but never enough to fully understand what was actually happening. By then, the narrative had shifted completely. What originally looked like a high-profile kidnapping had transformed into something far more disturbing: a maze of manipulation, conflicting agendas, and possible betrayal inside Nancy Guthrie's own world. And according to insiders speaking anonymously, investigators had begun quietly considering the possibility that someone powerful was influencing the narrative from behind the scenes. The most unsettling part was the suggestion that the people publicly presenting themselves as protectors of Nancy Guthrie might also be controlling which pieces of information reached the public and which stayed hidden. The internet became consumed by the mystery. Hashtags connected to the case trended worldwide as TikTok creators, Reddit users, and amateur investigators dissected every frame of the surveillance footage. One viral clip replayed the masked figure outside the house over and over with captions suggesting Nancy was not truly missing but intentionally being hidden somewhere. Online communities built detailed timelines, maps, and conspiracy boards trying to connect every leak and unexplained detail. A massive Reddit thread dedicated to the theory of an inside operation exploded with hundreds of thousands of comments, many focused on one central question: if the original ransom note was manipulated, then who was really controlling the story? Celebrities quickly joined the discussion, adding even more fuel to the public obsession. Reality television personalities, influencers, and musicians posted cryptic reactions suggesting that the truth was unfolding far away from what cameras were showing publicly. Several public figures openly questioned why no ransom money had moved if the kidnapping was genuinely motivated by profit. Others argued that the case felt more like a battle over influence and narrative control than a traditional criminal operation. The public gradually split into two competing camps. One side defended the Guthrie family passionately, insisting they were victims trapped inside a nightmare while desperately trying to bring Nancy home. The other side became increasingly suspicious of inconsistencies surrounding the case, especially the untouched crypto wallets, conflicting timelines, and leaks hinting at internal conflict. For many observers, the silence surrounding the ransom demands became impossible to ignore. In most high-profile kidnappings, investigators expect repeated pressure and ongoing attempts to secure payment. In this case, there was almost nothing. News organizations amplified the uncertainty even further. Television analysts debated whether investigators might be dealing with internal complicity rather than a straightforward abduction. Anonymous sources claimed divisions were forming inside the task force itself, with some investigators convinced the crime was targeted from outside, while others believed someone close to the family was actively shaping the public narrative to conceal another secret entirely. Attention soon turned toward Nancy Guthrie's financial and professional world. Online investigators began examining her charity foundations, property holdings, business relationships, and board memberships. Speculation spread rapidly about possible financial motives, hidden disputes, and secrets that could have created powerful enemies. Every new rumor intensified the belief that the case might involve much more than a simple ransom scheme. By evening, the story had become larger than the disappearance itself. It was now a national obsession driven by non-stop social media analysis, celebrity commentary, leaked documents, and public paranoia. Every post, every screenshot, and every anonymous claim pushed the narrative into darker territory. Then another alleged leak appeared online and sent shockwaves through the internet. According to reports, an internal FBI memo suggested investigators were actively exploring possible insider involvement in the case. The headline alone triggered panic across social media. Viral posts immediately began asking whether someone close to the Guthrie family could actually be connected to Nancy's disappearance. That same night, a Reddit user claiming to be a former investigator posted a cryptic message that spread rapidly online. According to the post, the public had been looking in the wrong direction from the beginning. The answer, the user suggested, was not outside the house but somewhere inside it. Shortly afterward, Savannah Guthrie posted an equally mysterious Instagram story implying that truth often hides in plain sight and that the people trusted most can sometimes be the ones orchestrating events from the shadows. Within minutes, the comment section erupted. Millions of viewers began dissecting the message, trying to determine whether it was emotional frustration, a warning, or a deliberate clue aimed at someone close to the investigation. At that point, the case no longer resembled a normal criminal investigation. It had evolved into something much bigger, a public spectacle fueled by fear, suspicion, manipulation, and the growing belief that the real story had still not been fully revealed. The reaction online was immediate. People could not believe what they were hearing. Was this really no longer being treated as a random abduction? Had the investigation uncovered evidence pointing towards something happening inside the family's own circle? Across live streams and social media platforms, viewers compared the case to a psychological thriller unfolding in real time. Then came the FBI update that pushed the story into even darker territory. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos appeared before reporters looking visibly tense as cameras flashed around him. During the briefing, he confirmed that investigators were expanding the scope of the case and examining multiple layers connected to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. But one statement instantly captured national attention. Investigators were exploring evidence that could suggest possible internal complicity. That phrase changed everything. Within minutes, legal analysts, crime commentators, and internet investigators began dissecting the wording live on air. Some pointed out that internal complicity does not simply imply outside criminals receiving assistance. In some cases, it can suggest the possibility that elements of the operation itself originated from within the victim's own environment. As the public tried to process the statement, another wave of alleged leaks began spreading online. Screenshots of emails, deleted messages, and private conversations circulated rapidly across social media. Many of the posts referenced secret meetings, unexplained financial activity, and communications allegedly tied to individuals connected with the Guthrie Foundations. One particular line appearing in a leaked exchange stunned viewers and quickly became viral. Ensure the narrative unfolds exactly as planned. Delay the proof of life. Keep crypto untouched. Whether authentic or fabricated, the message fueled a new level of obsession around the case. Online communities started constructing detailed hourly timelines, connecting surveillance footage, screenshots, family statements, and financial rumors into increasingly elaborate theories. TikTok creators posted endless breakdowns asking whether the kidnapping itself had been designed to distract attention away from another hidden scandal involving money, influence, or internal conflict. Celebrities added even more momentum to the speculation. Actress Lena Valdez posted that the situation no longer resembled an ordinary missing person investigation and argued that whoever was behind it appeared to be manipulating public perception several steps ahead of everyone else. Her comments spread rapidly, reinforcing the growing belief online that the public had only seen a small fraction of what investigators might actually know. Then another rumor surfaced, one that immediately sent social media into meltdown. Anonymous sources claimed a 2-minute recording allegedly connected to Savannah Guthrie existed on a secure server before being deleted. According to the leak, the recording captured a private conversation so damaging that, if released publicly, it could completely reshape how people understood the entire case. Some reports claimed the file was gone permanently. Others insisted investigators or unknown insiders still possessed copies. That possibility intensified fears that everything released so far, the surveillance footage, ransom notes, leaked messages, and public statements, might only represent the surface of a much deeper operation hidden underneath. As the story spiraled further, online audiences became consumed by anticipation for the next revelation. Every update generated millions of views within minutes. Comment sections filled with theories accusing insiders, questioning the untouched cryptocurrency wallets, and debating whether the real motive had anything to do with ransom money at all. By then, the case had transformed into more than a criminal investigation. It became a national obsession driven by fear, speculation, and the belief that someone was carefully controlling the information reaching the public. The deeper people looked, the more they felt the truth remained deliberately hidden just out of reach. And hanging over everything was one final unsettling idea repeated across social media and news commentary alike. If the DNA evidence eventually reveals who was truly involved, the entire narrative surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance could collapse overnight, exposing a story far more disturbing than anyone originally imagined.